Welcome to week 9, the online lecture for week 9 of College Success Skills 100. This is the second to last online lecture that you will get in this class. Today is Monday, November 18th, so I'm recording this right after the College Success Skills 100 class that we were in this morning. If you were unable to attend, I think you missed a pretty helpful lecture. It was on taking tests. I've posted the 2 PowerPoints that I used on the week 9 materials. The second to last discussion board is also posted, so please feel free to go in there and answer those questions. It's a reflective response, so it just talks about tests that you've taken in the past and reflect on your experience taking that test and whether or not it fits with sort of the techniques that we talked about today or not. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about test taking techniques after the exam. So we've talked about what happens before the exam, the studying part, what happens during the staying calm and focusing and getting through the exam effectively and efficiently part, and we're talking about the reflective piece, what happens after the exam, and different scenarios that could occur after the exam for you and how to kind of stay calm and power through that. Alright, so getting started, I'll have to open with these. This is 2 students talking. One says, that test was ridiculous. The other says, yeah, I don't think the prep material covered everything. This is funny to me. Maybe not to you, but to me it is, because a lot of times students will think that instructors will only cover material in class that's going to be on the exam, and that the exam will only cover material that was covered in a review or a study guide or notes that they post on Moodle. The reality is that every single aspect of the class, every resource, every article, every chapter in the textbook could potentially be something that you're tested on, because you as a student are expected to be an independent learner. So the instructor may not even cover a lot of the material in class and may instead find other ways to talk about the material, because they are expecting you to read the material or research the material on your own. So, important thing to keep in mind when you're preparing for an exam is that anything could be free game unless they say otherwise. So, the exams happened. You may or may not have done well in your mind, but you're walking out the door. You've already turned it in. You've done everything that you were supposed to do. So what could you be feeling right now? Well, you could be feeling a whole host of emotions, but most commonly, you could be feeling relief because the exam is over. Maybe you did do well, maybe you did not do well, maybe you felt confident, maybe you did not feel confident, but in the end, you feel relief that it's over. That's usually a pretty positive feeling. Sometimes, though, you may be feeling some additional stress, thinking, I didn't do well, or I did well, but I don't know if I did as well as I should have, or this exams were so much a part of my grade and I really don't know how I did. And that ambiguity can really cause you some stress as well. So feeling stressed, not good, not a good feeling, and it does happen quite frequently. Another feeling you might have, that I hope you have, is feeling extra confident. You might say, wow, that test was a breeze, I totally feel like I aced it. There's a good side to that, which is that you feel good, right? Feeling confident is positively reinforces the fact that you got the exam. But sometimes it can lead to disappointment. Okay. So after an exam, there's some things you need to do. The first thing you need to do is reflect, and you're going to do this anyway. You're going to be dwelling likely on the exam, especially if it was worth a lot or if it was something you spent a lot of time preparing for. So if you're reflecting and you haven't received your grade yet, say you just took the exam and just turned it in, ask yourself, do I feel like I did as well as I was, or better yet, did I set a goal for myself, maybe a smart, measurable goal? Your grade, maybe you're able to answer that question.
Another thing you can do after a little bit of time has passed, before you get your grade back or after you get your grade back, is to ask the instructor why you did well or did not do well. So usually to pay back or receive the grade back, sometimes that grade back is just a letter grade with no notation as to why you did not do well. So it's going to be up to you to pursue finding out that information, because after all, just learning that you got an A on an exam you didn't know what you were doing doesn't help you learn. Your instructor should be open to providing you feedback, open and honest feedback about how you performed. If you did not do well, even if you failed, they should be willing to explain to you exactly what steps you took or what steps should have been taken that caused that to happen. You also need to keep a positive attitude. Even if you fail, happened, that there's no going back. That's not supposed to be a defeated perspective. Okay, that's supposed to be something positive. Okay. So it's a matter of finding a balance between feeling totally down on yourself, feeling good about yourself even if you don't do well, and feeling way too good about yourself because you did well one time, because that can lead to other issues. Keep your study materials. Please don't think you can just go forget everything you just learned in class, even if you don't like it or don't think it's useful. There's a reason you were expected to know it. So please, please, please keep your study materials. Good stuff to know in the future, and you may be tested on it again if it's a midterm. It's freezing up. All right, there we go. Only in math can you buy 60 cantaloupes and no one asks what the hell is wrong with you. So I always make fun of math because it's just the subject I just didn't enjoy much in college. I see a huge value in it now that I'm a professional, but I gotta tell you, as a student, a business student even, I really didn't see a lot of use in the calculus aspect of it. But there is a purpose to every class that you take, a value that it can add to you, if you really try and find it. Alright, so after an exam, another thing you're going to want to do is to consider what your preparation process looked like. And this is something you're going to need to do for your discussion board this week. So think about all those preparation techniques we talked about: chunking information, taking notes, organizing your notes, reading through your notes, repeating information, developing a study group, independently talk to yourself, develop mnemonic devices, all of these things that we've talked about this whole quarter. What did your preparation process look like? Did it meet all of those necessary criteria in Maslow's hierarchy of needs before you could even begin studying, or did it not? These are things you're going to have to answer. Now that you're looking at your study process, do you feel like those techniques actually worked? Or did you not getting the grade you wanted or getting the answers correct in the way that you wanted, did that happen because your preparation technique was not really effective? And I say effective and instead of efficient, because you can be efficient and study a lot and still not be effective in getting the grade that you want because you didn't study smart. Studying smart to me is spending little time studying, but a large amount of time over time studying. So small bits, 20, 30 minutes at a time, over time helps you retain information a little bit better because it's a repetition piece. It's not a cramming piece. If it didn't, well, I guess even if it did, but if it did or did not meet your expectations or didn't work for you or did work for you, consider developing a formal plan of action. You don't have to write it down. It might be useful for you if you're linguistic or visual, bodily kinesthetic, something like that. Writing it down, the process of writing it down can help you retain the plan of action in your mind. But develop a formal plan of action for yourself. Say, every time I have an exam like this, I'm going to study in this way. Or I know in the future I am not going to study in this way because I have proof now, evidence now, that it doesn't work for me, or that it does. Reward yourself accordingly. I keep driving home this concept of positive reinforcement because it is actually super effective. It seems silly to articulate this to yourself sometimes, I get that, but giving yourself a reward for completing and especially for meeting goals will help you retain information about the process you went through to retain or meet goals. Okay? Don't punish yourself. Negative reinforcement, while technically could possibly be effective in helping you retain information, it does not positively associate the process you went through to get a good grade. So it actually could hinder your ability to retain information in the future. So I really encourage you, just don't punish yourself for not doing well. Reward yourself for finishing, and then reward yourself even better for finishing strong. These are two students talking, and one of them says, "A rose by any other name means I flunked the botany test." I think that's a little bit funny because even our common knowledge, like in this example, an old adage, "A rose by any other name may smell as sweet," or whatever it is that's in Romeo and Juliet. Even something that's common knowledge could be a wrong answer. So it's really important that you're actually using the content from the course when you're taking your exam, and that you reflect on why that may or may not be common knowledge when you're exiting the exam process. All right, so what happens if you fail? If you're like me, you're probably going through all sorts of emotions right now, right? Failed this test, it was really important, I really tried hard, or maybe I didn't try hard and I'm really disappointed in myself. The first thing you need to do is just calm down. And that is not an easy thing to do when something that matters to you falls through the cracks. But those emotions that you're going through are clouding your ability to reflect on why you did or did not do well. I guess you did not do well. And that's what you should be thinking about. So it's not the fact that you failed, it's what happened that caused you to fail. You're going to have that immediate gut reaction of, oh my gosh, I just failed. Let yourself process that alone or with a friend. Please don't process that with an instructor. It's probably not their fault. Okay? So just process that. Once you've identified what the issues were, in your opinion, go to your instructor and let them know what happened. Explain to them exactly what you did to prepare, or exactly what you did not do to prepare. Identify why, in your opinion, you did not meet the instructor's expectations for the exam. Be honest with them, but don't blame them. Ask if there's anything that you can do to demonstrate that you do understand material, because hopefully you feel to you. And they may help you out, but understand that an exam is a structured,
consistent way to measure a student's ability to learn in a specific context, and that's the only real way for us to define a grade. Okay, so an instructor giving you extra credit or partial credit, totally never guaranteed, never promised. It's worth just asking, floating out there, but don't be surprised or disappointed if you don't get it. Okay, because it's really uncommon. And it comes to a situation where you're failing a class. If you have to withdraw. If you can't withdraw, take the F and then retake the course later on. You've learned from this experience. There's nothing you can do. You're going to have to bite the bullet and move forward. Please don't let one or two little mistakes in your academic career ruin your ability to continue in school. It is one of the biggest and most disappointing things to watch as an instructor and as an academic, a lover of academia, to see a student give up on themselves in college because they just didn't gel with a certain class, or maybe they just didn't give themselves the time that they needed or the energy that they needed to complete a course effectively.
There are always ways to move forward. Now, if you're put on academic probation, which can happen, and some of you may have experienced that in the past, but if you're placed on academic probation, know that there are other ways to stay in school, okay? The first thing you're going to want to do is, if you have not been meeting with faculty or an advisor, you're going to want to set up a very regular meeting. If your life is so busy that you feel like that is what is impeding your success in school, find other methods of continuing. Maybe an online program is better for you. Maybe a school closer to home. Maybe saving some of that money for a babysitter. Readjusting your expectations and your resources to focus on completion. It's going to help you. Sometimes talking to a friend or a family member, even if they don't really know what you're going through as a student or as a student who has failed an exam, can really help. It's just a matter of processing. This is especially true for interpersonal learners. Some of you may not feel like you need that, or you may not feel that it helps. Also know that the Counseling Center in the Cardinal Student Center is available to you. You can schedule an appointment. It's usually a couple weeks out. You can also go into drop-in advising, but that usually isn't to help you process through a failed exam. That's more to help you plan ahead for your academic future. We'll talk more about that next week. All right, now what if you aced it? You may be going through some emotions as well. Totally excited, right? Maybe you didn't expect it. Maybe you did better than you thought you would. Maybe you met your expectations. But regardless, you need to reward yourself really well for that. That's actually not a super common thing to ace an exam, okay? A certain small percentage, 5 to 10% maybe of students will ace any given exam, meaning get an A in it. So reward yourself for that. If you've never aced an exam before, don't think that you're a bad student. Just know that you don't. That's totally fine. Don't think that all exams in that class, though, will be that easy for you, or that any other class will have any relationship to that exam. There may have been a situation where you just got really lucky, or if the teacher was grading on a curve, maybe you really got quite a few questions wrong. But because the rest of the class didn't do so hot, you ended up with a better grade. Well, if that's the case, know that there's still information that you didn't get correct on that exam. And it could show up later on in a later exam or in a class later on. Maybe this is a prerequisite for something, or in your life that you really wanted to know. So again, keeping that study material and referring to it even after the exam is over is really good for you. And don't think that you can forget everything. Just because you really focused on one specific aspect of your academic career and you did well in that does not mean that it's something that excuses you from just forgetting it later on. Even if it's a final exam and you're never taking that class or a class like that again. You're here to learn a lot of different things, especially if you're an associate's transfer degree student. You're here to learn many different subjects. So every single one of them should be important to you. So don't try to forget the information you've learned. So now I want to just talk a little bit about what's going to be happening basically the next 2 weeks. Next week's class, we're going to be talking about managing multiple priorities. What that means is how to find time for the whole you, and not just finding time for the whole you, but also how to juggle all of the different priorities that are competing for your attention and your time. We did talk a little bit about it, and we'll repeat some of what we talked about at the beginning of the quarter, but only to reinforce how important it is. There's also some tools that I'll be sharing with you in class about how to connect with resources and advisors and counselors to maybe juggle those a little bit more effectively. Our online lecture will be about advisors and counselors, who they are, what they do, how to get a hold of them, how to find them. You may know these things, but it's one of the more critical aspects of the class, something I wanted to save to the end so that you know moving forward that it's something you actually have to know. Discussion board 8 is due this Sunday.
even though it's week 9, remember there was that 1 week where we didn't have discussion boards, so everything was shifted. The week discussion board 9 is going to be due Sunday, December 1st, which is a week from Sunday. And then 2 weeks from Sunday, on Sunday, December 8th, our final paper is due. That is the last experience that you will have in this class, for now. It needs to be sent to me via email. I do not want it through anything having to do with Moodle. I just want it to my email, okay? I will even be checking my spam folders, which are very effective, and they do not delete student emails, so I will know if you sent it to me. Please keep a copy of the email you sent, just for your own records. I will have your grade for you by the end of finals week. Okay. Early submissions are accepted and encouraged. I won't be able to review any rough drafts the week before, so you only have this week to submit rough drafts. After that, you're going to have to go to other resources to get feedback on your papers. A couple of you have already submitted your final papers, and I will be grading them and putting them in the gradebook. Just know that just because that's complete doesn't mean you can't finish the class strong by completing the other 2 discussion boards and staying engaged in the class, okay? All right, so that's all we have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's lecture, or this 3-part lecture. And again, if you need anything from me, please let me know. I'm available via email. Bye, everybody.